It's 7 p.m. in London. This is The World Today with me, Steve Lyne. A lawyer for a man filmed being kicked in the head by a police officer at Manchester Airport says his condition has worsened. Two of the men have now released a video showing injuries following what happened on Tuesday. Benjamin Netanyahu meets President Joe Biden at the White House a day after delivering a fiery speech to Congress.
Police and protesters have been at the gates of the White House with that meeting between President Biden and Prime Minister Netanyahu now underway.
Multiple landslides in Ethiopia kill at least 250 people. Also coming up on The World Today, we'll bring you all the anticipation ahead of the Olympics officially getting underway in Paris. Welcome to The World Today, an hour of international news from the BBC. Now we start here in the UK, where a lawyer for three people involved in an incident with police at Manchester Airport says one has been found to have a cyst on the brain. In a widely circulated video filmed on Tuesday, a uniformed officer is seen kicking a man in the head while he's on the floor. Greater Manchester Police has suspended one officer from all duties and referred itself to the Independent Police Watchdog. In the past hour, the Independent Office for Police Conduct says it also received a further referral from Greater Manchester Police in relation to the incident. There were protests on Wednesday night outside Rochdale Police Station. A warning, this report by Ed Thomas contains video of that incident right at the beginning, which you may find distressing. Well, let's try and get a better understanding of what's been happening with this story and speak with Shabnan Chowdhury, who's a former detective superintendent in the Metropolitan Police. Shabnan, thank you for your time today. Firstly, I want to get your initial reaction when you first saw the clip.
Oh gosh, initial reaction was shocking, disturbing, very, very distressing.
Thank you very much for your insight and your perspective today. We do appreciate it. Shabnan Chowdhury, former detective superintendent at the Metropolitan Police. Now to the United States, where President Joe Biden has been meeting Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at the Oval Office amid ongoing protests during the Israeli Prime Minister's trip to Washington. It's the first meeting between the two since Mr. Biden visited Israel shortly after the Hamas attacks on October the 7th. President Biden is expected to put renewed pressure on the Israeli Prime Minister to secure a ceasefire deal in Gaza and to free the remaining hostages held by Hamas. Let's hear what the pair had to say as their meeting began.
Mr. President, we've known each other for 40 years, and you've known every Israeli Prime Minister for 50 years.
Anyway, thank you all for being here.
Now that sit-down happened just within the last hour. Let me show you the scene and how it looks outside the White House, where anti-war protesters are gathered for the meeting. Security is tight on Capitol Hill, with police roadblocks following the Israeli Prime Minister's every move around Washington. Now for more on this, let's speak with Dr. Sabri Saidam. He is the Deputy General Secretary of the Fatah Central Committee, and he's joining us from the West Bank. Thank you very much for your time, Dr. Sabri. First, I want to get your thoughts on Prime Minister Netanyahu meeting with President Biden. Do you think Biden will be able to put more pressure on him for a ceasefire?
Well, it's good to be with you. Let's start by saying that Biden is on his way out, so Netanyahu knows that there isn't much leverage that Biden has on him.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Sabri. We'll leave it there. We do appreciate your time and for speaking with us as well. Dr. Sabri Saidam, the Deputy General Secretary of the Fatah Central Committee, speaking to us from the West Bank. Now, let's staying on this story. Let's cross now to Washington, D.C. and speak to our State Department correspondent, Tom Bateman. Tom, we know the talks are underway. Have we heard any lines from them?
Not yet, only what we saw at the beginning with the two men meeting each other in the Oval Office. Not much being said by President Biden, it has to be said. He sort of immediately sat down and said he was going to hand the floor to Mr. Netanyahu, that they had a lot to talk about.
Tom, thanks as always for getting us across those details. Our State Department correspondent, Tom Bateman there. There's still to come on The World Today. The UN Secretary General says the planet is becoming more dangerous due to extreme weather. We'll speak to one expert. And we'll see if Disney's Marvel superhero franchise can be saved by its upcoming Deadpool and Wolverine movie. Around the world and across the UK, this is The World Today on BBC News. Now, the death toll from devastating landslides in southern Ethiopia has risen to 257. The United Nations is warning that the number could rise as search and recovery operations continue. BBC Africa's Kalikdan Nibital sent this report from Gofa at the site of the landslides, and a warning you may find some of the images distressing.
Grief has reigned over these lush mountains in Ethiopia's southern district of Kofa.
The issue is going to be a huge question for the authorities in the coming months and even years. Kalkidan Ibeltal, BBC News, Kofa.
A man has appeared in court charged with attempted murder after a soldier was stabbed in Kent. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Teaton was in uniform when he was attacked near his home close to Brompton Barracks in Gillingham. On Tuesday, Ashita Nagesh reports.
Anthony Eason arriving in court this morning where he was accused of stabbing a uniformed senior army officer. Ashita Nagesh, BBC News in Chatham.
The US, UK and South Korea have jointly accused North Korea of using a cyber espionage group to steal sensitive and classified data to advance Pyongyang's military and nuclear ambitions. Gordon Carrera has more.
This is an advisory just put out in the last hour or so, a joint one by, as you said, the US, the UK and South Korea, warning of a specific North Korean hacking group codenamed Anduril, which they accuse of stealing quite interesting information, military and defence and even nuclear information. So a claim that this is a kind of group which mixes criminal and nation-state espionage in its work, all on behalf of North Korea.
Plenty more to come. Do stay with us right here on BBC News.
Hello there.
This is BBC News, the headlines. The police watchdog says it also received a further referral from Greater Manchester Police in relation to a man being kicked in the head by a police officer in Manchester Airport.
Welcome back, Mr. Prime Minister. We've got a lot to talk about.
Benjamin Netanyahu meets President Joe Biden at the White House a day after delivering a fiery speech to Congress. Thousands of pro-Palestinian protesters have again taken to the streets in the US capital, accusing the Israeli Prime Minister of being a war criminal. The NHS appeals for people with O-type blood to urgently donate as blood stocks in England drop to unprecedentedly low levels. And we're in Paris, where the first Olympic events have taken place ahead of tomorrow's opening ceremony. And more now on our top story. The police watchdog says it has received a further referral from Greater Manchester Police in relation to a man being kicked in the head by a police officer at Manchester Airport. A lawyer for 3 people involved in an incident says one has been found to have a cyst on the brain. Greater Manchester Police has suspended 1 officer from all duties. Now, there have been protests near the office of the Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham calling on authorities to do more. Our reporter Phil McCann was there.
Well, there are around 200 people here in the middle of Manchester.
Phil McCann reporting there. Now, the BBC has discovered that a suspect in the racist murder of Stephen Lawrence admitted to police to being a paedophile, but no action was taken against him. Matthew White had also been convicted of carrying a machete 4 years before the murder in 1993. Our investigations correspondent Daniel De Simone has the details.
Is this the final chance for justice? Daniel De Simone, BBC News.
The NHS is appealing for people with O-type blood to urgently donate after blood stocks in England dropped to unprecedentedly low levels. Officials said it follows a perfect storm of unified appointments at donor centres and increased demand following a cyber attack which has affected services in London. O-negative blood, known as the universal blood type, is safe for all patients. It is used in emergencies or when a patient's blood type is unknown. Now let's speak with Professor Dee Thiruchelvam. She's the Chief Nursing Officer at NHS Blood and Transplant. Thanks, Dee, for your time today. Great to have you on. How serious, give us a better understanding of how serious this shortage really is.
So this is serious, and we want to ensure that we're able to support the NHS.
Dee, thank you very much for your time and for your message for those watching to try and get in touch if they can and are able to donate as well. We've been speaking with Professor Dee Thiruchelvam. She's the Chief Nursing Officer at NHS Blood and Transplant. Now to climate change, and the UN Security Secretary General has said the planet is becoming more dangerous after the 3 hottest days on record. The European Union's Copernicus Climate Change Service ranked Sunday as the hottest day ever until that record was beaten on Monday. Tuesday is thought to have been roughly the same. Antonio Guterres called for action to protect vulnerable people, workers and cities from the growing threat of heat waves.
Extreme temperatures are no longer a one day, 1 week or 1 month phenomenon. If there is one thing that unites our divided world, is that we are all increasingly feeling the heat.
And different parts of the world are witnessing extreme weather disasters right now. In Canada, firefighters are continuing work to put out a wildfire in the mountain town of Jasper. The forest fire has been spreading through Jasper National Park, with several buildings in the town destroyed. Around 25,000 people have been evacuated. The army is preparing to send in reinforcements to help tackle the blaze. And as we've talked about as well, Typhoon Gami has now made landfall in China's southeastern coast after pummeling Taiwan and the Philippines with torrential rain and heavy winds. It's the strongest typhoon to hit Taiwan in 8 years, killing several people, injuring hundreds and flooding parts of the island's second biggest city. Meanwhile, the Met Office is warning that climate change is dramatically increasing the frequency of extreme weather events in the UK. Liz Bentley is the Chief Executive of the Royal Meteorological Society. She explains why the yearly count of hot days in the UK is increasing.
This is a report that comes out every year.
That's still to come on The World Today. With the 2024 Olympics getting underway, we'll have the latest developments from Paris. And we'll see if Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman can save Disney's Marvel franchise from its superhero slump. Around the world and across the UK, this is The World Today on BBC News. It's 100 years since Paris last staged the Summer Olympics, and while competition in football, rugby, sevens, archery and handball are already underway, the official opening of the Games is a little over 24 hours away. We'll have extensive coverage over the next few weeks. Mariam Mashiri has more.
Welcome to Paris, the city of love, which is soon going to become the city of sport.
Yeah, looking forward to that. Now, Deadpool and Wolverine has been released in UK cinemas today. Ryan Reynolds is back as Deadpool, and then, thanks to the creative joys of the Marvel multiverse, Hugh Jackman is able to reprise his role as Wolverine. It's already had warm reception with from fans and critics alike after Marvel's last film flopped at the box office. Some people say it is or will save Marvel. Well, let's speak with Siobhan Sinnott, a film journalist who joins me now. Siobhan, you've seen the film, I understand. Is it good?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Deadpool movie.
Well, Siobhan Sinnott, thanks so much for joining me. Siobhan Sinnott there, film journalist. Now, you're watching BBC News. Now, the shortlist for the Mercury Prize has been announced, and the award recognises the best of UK and Irish music, with 12 albums being selected. A warning, this next report from our music correspondent, Mark Savage, does contain some flashing images.
At 360, when you're in the mirror, do you like what you see? When you're in the mirror, you're just looking at me.
The winner will be announced in September.
Yeah, and with me now is our reporter, Lola Schroer, for more on this. Lola, what else do we need to know about the Mercury Awards?
Well, this year is the first year that there hasn't been an announcement about who the sponsor will be.
Okay, so a little bit under, it's all being kept
yes,
close to the chest.
a little bit quiet.
Just a drive anticipation, perhaps. And tell us a bit about some of the nominees then. Who should we be looking out for?
So you might have heard it's Brat Summer, Steve. Format, we'll see what happens.
Okay, thanks so much, Lola, for coming in and talking to us about this. A lot of excitement around the Mercury Awards. Can feel it from you as well. Lola Schroer there, our live in our newsroom, talking to us all about it. Now we're going to go to the weather with Elizabeth next. Bye for now.